we know that you are an insider, right? And we know that we see you in your current form here on this show and on your insider show. But as you and I were talking about the other day, like, why don't we let people know kind of like your journey, like the process that it took to get you to sitting in this chair, man? How did you start?
We covered this a little bit yesterday when Hansen was in here, because he was talking about his first job being for, what did he say it was, $16,000?
Something like
Traverse
that.
City, Michigan. It was $15,000 or $16,000. Scott Hansen,
like that, yeah.
host of NFL Red Zone, but he started out making literally that. I was getting rejected from those jobs. I can remember having VHS tapes that were based on me working at like the community TV station in Newton, Massachusetts, as part of like coursework in college, and like clips from, just random little things like editing together something when I had an internship at ESPN, but like I had no idea what I was doing. And the tapes, actually, I should dig that up the next time I'm in. I don't know if we got a VHS player around here, but we could take a look at what's on that tape.
Tufo, you probably got one.
I guarantee it's awful. I guarantee it's legitimately terrible. So I was applying for the same jobs that Hansen had, but everyone's telling me no. You didn't even hear back no. Sometimes they just mail the tape back to you.
A lot of times when I was doing the same thing, you wouldn't even hear back from people.
Right. And so my option at that time was I took a part-time job at a radio station in Minneapolis making $8 an hour, 20 hours a week with no benefits and not allowed to work overtime, covering the Vikings. So it's opportunity. It's no money. And I was definitely below the poverty line at that time. But it was like, all right, well, I'm going to work way more than 20 hours a week, and I'm going to try to figure out this job on the fly. And thankfully, there were people around, not all the time, but a lot of the time, who kind of put up with me just kind of siphoning off other, people actually conducting interviews, because I didn't know how to ask a question, not knowing what to do in the locker room, not knowing how to write a story. It's reps. You got to find your voice. And so went from there to taking a job at the Eau Claire Leader-Telegram in Eau Claire, Wisconsin for not a whole lot more than $16,000 a year. And then from there to the Green Bay Press-Gazette, because I broke a story about Green Bay getting a Northwoods League baseball team. That's how I got on their radar, and that's how I got the job there as the assistant sports editor when I was 26. And I'll leave that other story about how that job opened. I'll leave that for another story, another time. And then went back because one of the people who worked with me at a radio station, at the original radio station in Minneapolis, they were starting a different radio station in Minneapolis. They needed somebody to come in and like lead the content team. And so I came in to do that in 2010, which then somehow I went from there to USA Today to NFL Network. So it's not like a linear path, but that was how, I got to this spot. It was just, that's one thing that, and I hate that I, sound old. What am I, 44 at this point? Talking to Greg about like his kids, how youth sports have changed. But it has, man.
It has.
It permeates every level of what we do, down to when you're a young kid. Yes, was there less pressure in youth sports when I was growing up? Absolutely. And because you had house league and you played, and until 5th grade, I believe, was the first time that there was travel anything. And then all of a sudden it was like, oh, the good kids now aren't in the league anymore, and I'm kind of like the one left behind. And so, 6th grade I try out and I make the travel baseball team. 7th grade I get cut. Right? But like you learn through that process of like, what it is to like just to go through those different things. Like the pressure points are different in the whole deal. You would play games when it was like pouring rain, unless there was lightning, and then you just go to the car for 10 minutes and hope the lightning stopped,
for it to blow over.
and then you'd come back out with your metal bats and you'd resume playing. Now, if there's like a 20% chance of a storm an hour before my daughter's soccer game gets canceled. And I'm like, or if there's some rain starts, literally every parent and child runs to their cars and just drives off. We're giving up. That's it. Not playing tonight.
Game's over.
My daughter played 3.5 soccer games this entire summer in like a 12-game league. Everything else was canceled. It's the air quality is too low. It might rain. It's wet on the field because it rained 2 days ago. Everything gets canceled. And that is, again, I know I come across as there's a generational gap. And there's somebody will see this clip and be like, oh, you
Get
you
off
don't
my lawn."
understand. We're taking care of kids. They need those 7 water breaks during their 1-hour
please.
soccer game. We need to rotate.
We drank out of a hose.
When the kids
that had
show
holes
up,
in it, and it was attached to a shed.
When they show up 15 minutes late to the game, and the coach is like, "All right, subs, go right in the game," we would have been benched. Your parents can't get you on time. Not my problem.
Nope.
I'm not going to take away playing time from the kids and the parents who did get here on time. And they do it every single game, and you keep putting them out there. I don't know. That's just not how it came up. But then I think that a lot of that translates to like what media has become here. And again, I don't have all the answers. I'm not sitting here like giving you a lecture on you should go and work for free and all that stuff. What I would say is my personal experience of having to, somebody had to give you an opportunity. You had to convince somebody to put you on air. You had to convince somebody to let you publish a story on a website.
Yep.
Now, because there's no barricades, it's a great thing. I always tell this when, like, you know, young people will reach out, and I try to call people back. If some kid emails me, I'm in college, I'm in high school, whatever, I'll try to call them back. And I'm always saying, like, you have fewer barriers to entry than we ever had. There was no YouTube. There was no social media. There were no blogs. This is like early 2000s. Like, these things didn't exist. And so it's great. You can publish your own stuff. You can get all these reps that somebody had to give me the opportunity to get the reps. You can just record stuff. And if it sucks, fix it. Do a different thing the next time. Experiment and find your voice. Greg cited Malcolm Gladwell earlier. It's 10,000 hours on
10,000
task.
hours, yeah.
That's what you need to become an expert in your field. And that's been shot down by all sorts of other researchers. But the point is, like, getting those reps, that's the only way. I'm not the greatest talk show host of all time, but like I've become functional enough that Rich lets me sit in this chair occasionally because of like going through and doing satellite radio shows and local radio shows and TV and just like doing it. The issue, in my opinion, and again, I'm sure somebody's going to watch this and aggregate it out of context. A big part of the issue is 95% of the stuff, and I see it because like my kids will just be flipping around random YouTube stuff. It sucks. There's a lot of it that's terrible. And there's nobody to say, you suck. It's not even like, you're not good enough, give up. This is terrible. This should never be on. No one should watch this. You should be ashamed that you thought this was good. We all had a boss like that.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not somebody who reacts well to being crushed, but I've definitely had it and been like, man, screw that guy. But then the next day you're like, yeah, that did suck. That was terrible. You know, and like, you don't have that if you're just going, I'm starting a YouTube page. And again, there are people, you can go fast tracked, you can amass millions of followers, and then a major media company will hire you to be a big part of their brand going forward. And it's like, wow, like, is that fair? There is no fair. There's only the fairness of like what someone will let you do. If you convince somebody you're that impactful and you're that good at your job and you can elevate everything else, someone's going to give you the opportunity. But what we lack at the lowest levels is people just go on and start tweeting stuff. And I try not to read the mentions, but like I'll see stuff and I'm like, and I'll see it and then, click the bio and it's like, I'm, this blogger, this, I'm like, there's like a bare minimum amount of research that I would like to think. But all you do, you plug in, you create an account, you're on. And you're on TikTok and you're on X and you're on Threads and you're on Instagram and you're everywhere, but you're nowhere because you're not getting better. I remember doing some of the worst, like in hindsight, I am glad that, local radio websites, like they all get remade every 3 years and the entire catalog is like wiped off the face of the earth. I am glad some of the shows I did 20 years ago don't exist. And to your point, there's a long-winded way of saying it, but like there are people along the way who had to see what I was doing and then go, I think he can do more. Paul Allen, who's still the voice of the Vikings, was like a huge influence for me and impact on my career because I was 1 year into being, again, .com Tom at KFAN Radio in Minneapolis, a name that I only got because I replaced a guy named .com Dave who had left.
.com Tom is pretty good.
And PA, the second year, like he just saw how much work I was putting in, and he's like, hey, do you want to co-host Vikings Uncensored on Monday nights? And at a bar, we'd have a player on every week. One time a player showed up extremely high on painkillers, slurring his words. We had to do another hour with him. We were getting calls, and it was like, that was a very formative experience for me. But if I sucked at that, and if I was bad, eventually I would have gotten a tap on the shoulder going, we're not going to have you on anymore.
Yeah, right.
You're making a YouTube page for 5 years, and you're doing the same crap over and over again? Yeah, somebody's got to jump in and say, this is not good enough.
Everyone needs an editor.
So it's true. Somebody somewhere you'd like to think can step in, but that's all I would say. I'm not telling anybody.
We're not trying to step on anybody's dreams. Really.
I'm not trying to listen. Not everybody's going to go and be taking box scores at 11:30 on a midnight deadline in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, when you can't get the one coach who's town has 25 readers to answer the phone because he's out drunk at the bar because they finally won a game. And then he misspells his kids' names. And then the parents are calling you and complaining, my kid's name was spelled wrong. And I'm like, I don't know. The guy who took that box score was high as hell. He's making $5 an hour. He went home sick right after. And he couldn't tell me if he was sick from eating Taco Bell or Taco John's because he'd had both before he came in. I'm not saying you need to go do that. I am saying there is something about being at the absolute base level that is a really good thing. I don't have all the answers. I'm amazed I even get to sit here with you guys. But we all got here somehow.
We're not, Tom. You're great, man. Don't ever.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show live weekdays from 12 to 3 p.m. Eastern on Roku Sports Channel in the U.S.